Welcome to The World According to Mike Graham. Tonight, I'll be making one lucky person Prime Minister for the week and finding out why Joe Biden has ballsed up yet again. But first up, let's take a deep dive into the weird world of Ramonas. The United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union on the 23rd of June 2016, and everybody instantly agreed to abide by the decision.
This means that the UK has voted to leave the European Union.
52% of the British population celebrated, including everybody's favourite Brexiteer, Anne Widdecombe.
17.4 million people in the biggest democratic turnout in British history voted to leave.
Nigel Farage also took the news well, although I'm not sure others did.
You know, when I came here 17 years ago and I said that I wanted to lead a campaign to get Britain to leave the European Union, you all laughed at me. Well, I have to say, you're not laughing now, are you?
Nigel bid a fond farewell to the European Parliament, but all they cared about was his flag.
Please sit down, resume your seats, put your flags away, you're leaving, and take them with you.
Sadly, not everyone took the news as well. Alistair Campbell was the first of many complainers, or as they're now known, Ramonas.
I'll buy you lunch.
I don't want
celebrate.
lunch. I
Let's
don't
have
want
fun.
lunch, because lunch to me will be a waste of time when I can spend my time trying to stop this madness.
You're not going to
Let me
stop
tell
it.
you.
It's all over.
Well, I don't agree with you.
It's done.
Anna Soubry was also in tears. Apparently so was her elderly mother and both of her daughters. Ramoning is a family affair.
My mother is 84 and she wept on Friday. Just like my 24 and 25-year-old daughters shed tears because we made a terrible mistake.
And who could forget the much-loved 90s star Terry Christian? This rampant Ramona wanted everyone who voted Brexit to die.
Let me just say what you've tweeted. This was in August 2019. It's the flu, you said, so mainly OAPs. If they voted to destroy our lives by voting Brexit, let's hope it's a good virulent strain this year.
Oh, good, yeah, let them
You
sit for a
literally
bit.
wanted...
And the king of all the Ramonas was Steve Bray, also known as Mr. Stop Brexit.
For the last 15 months, Steve Bray has endeavoured to stand outside Parliament day after day after day. Every day its members are in session, in fact.
7 years later, these resilient Ramonas are still angry with democracy. They won't take no for an answer, even if it means filling the Royal Albert Hall with EU flags. Ramonas also have a lot of time on their hands, and they love to march. And there's many ways to protest, but Ramonas believe contemporary dance is the most effective way to get their point across. And that's my deep dive into the wonderful world of Ramonas. Now let's meet an expert to find out why these losers want to rejoin the European Union. Kevin O'Sullivan is here with me. Kevin, I know you share my absolute amazement and astonishment at the Remainiacs and the fact that they just can't let it go. They can't give it up. They've become so deranged, they think dancing around sort of single stars and wearing blue and yellow all the time is the way forward. I mean, what's wrong with them?
I mean, those dances that are outside Parliament and things, that is the kind of personification of Brexit derangement syndrome. These people are completely mad to the point that they drape themselves in the flags and go around going like this, as if that's going to get us to rejoin the EU.
And hold single stars and go, we want our star back.
I mean, it's childlike.
It really is
As
weird.
As you say, Mike, this vote was in 2016. We took a scandalous amount of time to enact the will of the people, but Boris finally got it through. We have now left the EU and we're never going back. And by the way, this is an auspicious day to be talking about this. The charts have just come out of the world's greatest financial cities. We're second, just behind New York, and closing in fast. The great EU cities of Paris and Frankfurt that we were told that all of our financial institutes
They're all leaving.
would move to.
They're all going.
Would move to as soon as Brexit happened. They're 15th and 16th. They're way behind us and fading fast. So actually, Brexit has been a triumph for the city and I think for lots of other elements of British life.
It has been. And this crowd that we saw just last weekend, sort of in the Rejoin the EU march, which was attended, I think, by about 3,000 people, hardly any people at all. And they all came up on their sort of ancient buses and trains and all the rest of it. There isn't anywhere else in the world where this kind of worship of the EU happens. It doesn't happen in Brussels. It doesn't happen in Paris. It doesn't happen in Madrid. It doesn't happen anywhere else apart from in London, where the Romaniacs think everybody gives us stuff about an organisation which is borderline corrupt, which has never had its accounts audited, I think, in its entire history, which when they do have MEPs allowed to speak, they're only allowed to speak for a minute, who were completely and utterly disgraceful towards the Brexit Party when they won, you know, the biggest load of majority seats in the place. And, you know, when you're in Europe, when you and I go frequently, despite the fact that the Romaniacs think we shouldn't, because we don't like Europe, you know, I don't ever see anybody going, it's great being in the European Union. They don't say it.
Exactly right. I mean, yeah, I love Europe. I love France. I love Germany. I love Greece. You know, I go there a lot. But that doesn't mean I want to be in their club.
No.
I don't want to be in their sclerotic...
Because it's nothing to do with Europe.
Yeah.
It's a made-up organisation which has been forged together by bureaucrats, politicians and ne'er-do-wells, lobbyists, you know, and it's not necessary. If the EU disappeared tomorrow, the world would be a better place.
Yeah, it's a sclerotic organisation. Frankly, it's fading out. It's on its last legs anyway. Look at the countries in it. You know, we were told that once we left this hallowed organisation, we would fall apart as a nation. It would be a disaster. Well, here we are. I guess 3 years after actually leaving, but 7 years after the vote. You know, we're having a tough time, but so are countries
so is
all
everybody
over.
else.
Ukraine war, cost of living. That's not because of Brexit.
No.
And these derangement syndrome idiots, every time they see anything that looks slightly bad, taxes go up. I blame Brexit.
Yes.
There's crime rates going. I blame Brexit. Shoplifting. I blame Brexit.
Can't get any tomatoes? Blame Brexit.
Blame Brexit.
Right.
It's not Brexit's fault, and that isn't the way the people of this country think. You know, we trundle on, we have difficulties, we have triumphs, and I don't think life has got any worse under Brexit.
And do you remember back in the summer, I think it was the early part of the summer, when there was a bit of trouble getting on a ferry because there was some delays. And the reason the delays had happened was nothing to do with Brexit, but of course these maniacs again were like, it's Brexit because they don't want us to come to France. No, it was because the French hadn't put enough people on to cover for the sort of, you know, the holiday traffic. And the very next day, it was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
You know, we've been told that if you fly to Europe now, you're going to be standing in a queue for ages. I mean, you went recently to Greece. I went recently to Italy, and I went to Cyprus. And you come off the plane, and guess what? Actually, the non-EU queue is shorter. Is actually shorter than the EU queue because you're the only ones in it.
Yeah.
So actually, all of the stuff that they warned us about never did happen.
No, and to go back to the COVID crisis, we got the vaccines out before anyone else in the world, despite the EU's attempts to screw us up. To stop the vaccines
They were going to
country.
break into the factory and commandeer it, weren't they?
Exactly.
To stop us getting the vaccines.
And they actually did that, and lives were lost because of it. That's how vicious the EU is. I just wish... You know, when you hear Keir Starmer saying things like, we've got to talk to the EU about the migrant crisis. Even Suella Braverman saying we must reach out to our partners to talk about the migrant crisis. No. Let's not do that. We've got to stop thinking multilaterally.
Yeah.
That's why we left the EU, because we couldn't make any decisions as a sovereign nation without Brussels approval. Leaving means we can, and that's what we've got to start doing and say, sod the EU, we make our own minds up about every issue.
Exactly right. And in fact, one of the more convincing arguments about why it's good to be outside of the EU is that we now don't have to listen to what it is that they say that we must do, because the other problem was we were about the only country in the EU who ever agreed to the laws.
Yeah.
Nobody else bothered. I mean, the French don't do anything that they're told to do.
Well, it looks as if, another thing that the Brexit mob or the Romaniacs have been fond of saying is that, as we edge towards, mercifully, hopefully, leaving this accursed European Convention on Human Rights that
Bring it on.
stops us from flying migrants to Rwanda, stops us doing anything, actually. They will say, no, you don't understand. The European Convention on Human Rights has nothing to do with the EU. I reject that notion. They are like that. Basically, the ECHR does what the EU says, which is another reason why we have to abandon abandon our membership of the ECHR so we can make our own decisions about the most important issue that's worrying so many people in this country, the migrant crisis.
Exactly right. Absolutely right. Kevin, thank you very much indeed. It's a pleasure to see you on this show for the first time.
Mike.
I'm sure we'll
Pleasure
have
to
you
be
back.
here. It's my debut.
Yeah, I know. We must have you back on as Prime Minister for the week as well. We'll be back after this. That was my deep dive into the weird world of the Romaniacs. It's been another crazy week for Donald Trump. Here is Trump's takedown.
You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
Not a single American life should be put at risk because crooked Joe Biden has been illegally paid off. He's been paid off. This is a corrupt president.
You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
And now it's time for Why Is This Still a Thing? So it's that time of year, isn't it? What do they call it? Conference season. Yes, it all kicks off with Liberal Democrats not doing anything of any note whatsoever. This week, what they'd like to do was move around in canoes and fall out of them in very shallow water while wearing life jackets. Don't ask me why. Now we've got the Tory party conference, then we've got the Labour party conference. Nobody cares. Nobody wants a party conference. We just want somebody to run the country properly. So why are party conferences still a thing? I say do away with them, save ourselves a load of money and get back to work where you're supposed to be, in the Houses of Parliament, for heaven's sake. Coming up, we'll be finding out who's going to be Prime Minister for a week. And we'll see what Joe Biden's balls up has been like. It's all coming up after the break. Welcome back to The World According to Mike Graham. Coming up next, it's time for Prime Minister for a week. So now it's time to meet the panellists for this week's Prime Minister for a week. And I'm delighted to say, back with us for the first time in a while, Precious Mule, who is a reality star, of course. Is that OK? Would that be the best way to describe you?
Yeah, TV personality.
Open house, TV personality. Dave Chawner, who's definitely not a TV personality, is also here. He's a comedian, aren't you?
I'm not a personality.
Are you still a comedian?
Apparently
Because that's
so.
what I was told.
Yeah.
I said, make sure you get that comedian Dave Chawner on. And so here you are.
Just don't say that too much because then the trade subscription people get involved.
They get upset. We don't want any of that. No, exactly right. So anyway, here's the chance you both have to prove to me that you would be a better Prime Minister than the one we've got. As I say every week, it's a pretty low bar, to be fair, because the Prime Minister at the moment isn't very good.
Right.
And Liz Truss, of course, wasn't Prime Minister for much longer than a week.
5 minutes.
So why not? Precious, why don't you give us your first one? What would you do?
I would love to remove congestion charge. I think
That's a good idea.
I think the congestion charge is an absolute, it's nonsense.
Yeah,
and I feel like it's just spreading.
Also, pop quiz. When you put a congestion charge on, it's meant to stop congestion rather than making it worse.
Making it worse,
It's now
right?
worse.
So you're basically charging people to come into London and it's still chaotic.
Yeah.
The traffic is there.
Yeah.
So why are we paying extra?
I didn't realise that the congestion charge was actually to make you pay to be in congestion. That's apparently what it means, right?
Well, in fairness, they do that with rush hour. That's the slowest hour. So maybe the signs were all there.
There's something to it. You think you're paying a congestion charge because it's not going to be congested. But I don't understand why more people than ever are now driving in London.
Even more people are coming into London. So the congestion charge is actually not working.
Yeah.
So why are we paying for
Also,
that?
you know, next week there's going to be 2 tube strikes, I think. And I don't think they're going to take away the congestion charge payment.
No, they're
You
not.
still have to pay to drive, even though there's no other way to get around.
No.
Brilliant.
So there you go.
I think that's great. She's already won, in my view.
Yeah.
Right, there we go. It's going to be a short show this week.
Yeah, it is. What's yours then?
Mine's a lot less fun. Yeah. I think it's a tough time.
Oh, here we go. I've forgotten you were such a lefty. This is ridiculous. All right, come on.
You're going to hate this.
Let's see you selling this one to us.
It's a tough time for the high street, and there's a lot of empty shops, and homelessness is on the rise. So let's, overnight, put homeless people in the empty shops.
What, like to sell?
Maybe.
Eh?
If you, like,
fancy buying a homeless person? What?
Nice.
What are you doing?
And a 24-piece jigsaw at the same time as well.
How are you going to put them in the shop, though? Because the shop normally doesn't have sort of, accommodation for people. It's a shop.
Yeah, so there's no events or anything.
What are you
You're
going to have them
saying,
just standing in there?
Yeah, like set it up.
Standing?
Lying
down?
They can let them freestyle it. Like if they want to sleep on the floor, if they want to sleep standing up.
How many people per square foot are you talking about?
I'd say 4.
Precious, your next one.
I would
see there's a theme developing here about cars.
Yeah, well, introducing self-driving cars would be amazing. I mean, I don't know how successful they are. They might cause congestion.
I don't fancy it,
but I would love the fact that we're kind of going into the future, and it's more futuristic. And
But
it's
do you know,
quite
there's a row
interesting.
about them, isn't there? Because some people say if there's a self-driving car, you still have to sit in the driving seat, or do you want to sort of lounge in the back?
Oh no, I still want to be in the back. Yeah,
Oh, you want to lounge
like,
in the back?
Oh yeah, just like
so
make
you want to
sure
be
the
driven
driver.
by nobody.
Yeah.
See, I would worry about that.
Mate, I've got into numerous Ubers and thought I would prefer to be driven by nobody than this guy.
Well, there you go. I agree.
He doesn't know where he's going.
I agree, yeah.
You got to start using the more expensive Ubers because they're better. I know people that have got these, and I don't know how they work. Do you just like park it next to the car that you want to park the space behind it, and then it goes in itself?
And then it goes in, yeah.
See, I don't get that.
Yeah, it's a bit dangerous, isn't it?
I don't get that. I used to use the New York version of parking cars, which is just how far do you go? You go forward until you hit the car in front.
Oh, yeah.
And then you go back.
Oh,
until
that's
you hit the
exactly
car.
how you park
And that's
in
how
New
you
York.
park in New
And
York.
that's how you park your car, yeah.
And that's how you know you're in the right spot. Right, what's your next one?
Right, this is going to be a spicy one.
Go on.
I think it would be fun to introduce mandatory voting.
Blimey.
Ooh.
So many idiots, so little time.
So, exactly, and that is my catchphrase, so many idiots, so little time.
Yeah.
I think...
So you want the 35% of people who don't vote in general elections?
Yeah.
And 70% of people who don't vote in local elections to vote?
I think it would make politicians up their game. I honestly think alongside this, politicians should have to work in retail every Saturday.
Yeah.
They should have a 4-day week and then have to work in retail on Saturday so that they know what normal people are like. And I actually think that mandatory voting would make them reach out to a sort of a wider pool of people.
But you were just telling me earlier there's no retail shops around for them to go and work in. So all they're going to do is find a load of homeless people hanging about. And they're going to think everybody's homeless.
Yeah. When they should be housing
What are these
them,
shops
to be
for?
honest.
Well, I mean, that is actually a fair point, but you could work in Amazon.
Amazon?
Yeah,
what, those
they
big
could work
warehouses?
Yeah, big warehouses.
Have you seen the size of those things?
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, they're pretty
That's
massive.
ridiculous,
They're
isn't it?
massive.
And they've got self-driving cars and stuff going around them, like the
Have
little
they?
robots and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Doing all the packing and packaging.
So that's another world, isn't it?
very blatant.
I'm not against mandatory voting.
Are you not? I thought you would give me such a hard
Did
ride
you?
on this.
No,
Why do you like mandatory voting?
It's not that I like it particularly, but I think if everybody did have a duty to vote, we might get a more representative
Couldn't agree
set
more.
of politicians.
I agree.
Because people who don't vote presumably wouldn't vote for any of the people on show.
Yeah.
You know, I personally don't vote because
Do you not?
no, I don't, because I wish to remain pure with my views on whatever subjects come across my desk, and I don't wish to be party political about them. So I don't vote. I voted once in my life in 1979 for Labour when Thatcher won by a landslide.
Wow. You see, I think the problem with democracy is that people like me can vote.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely think that's
I'll tell you what they
problem.
shouldn't do is they shouldn't allow 16-year-olds to vote either. Which
Do you
is what
know,
they're thinking about
I think
doing
they
in Scotland.
should.
What?
I
I think it depends on the individual. I mean, age is so, that you can meet someone who's really quite mature for their age, and then you can meet someone
That's
that has
16.
no idea. No,
Not
honestly,
really.
16,
Not really.
yeah.
Do you
No.
think you should have to pass a test before you vote?
I think you should, yeah,
Right.
because I think some people go into the box and they just tick whatever and have no idea who they've just voted for
Yeah,
or
but that's
what
the
they're
beauty
voting for.
of democracy is, you can't control it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And,
Right.
and so I'm not all for people being forced to vote, but I wouldn't object to it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you've come back a little bit in the race.
Surprising.
Precious, what's your final one?
I think mandatory daily naps, a nice
Yes.
siesta.
Right.
I would agree that.
I
would
love a
be-
nap.
Oh yeah, I think I
Fantastic.
would win hands down as Prime Minister with that one.
There's a perfect time for a nap as well. Do you know? It's
Oh,
20
yeah.
minutes. No longer.
Yeah,
If
like
it's too
20,
long,
30 minutes.
Yeah, if it's too long, it's asleep, and then you need to
And then
drowsy.
exactly.
You can't wake up.
I think once
and
you've
you
had
look like-
lunch, it's perfect.
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So who's going to make this mandatory siesta thing work? Though you're going to have people knocking on your door, going, "You're asleep." Because if you're not asleep, there's going to be a fine coming your way.
Yeah.
But then that's
And
a
then you
double-edged
go,
sword.
"I'm awake. You woke me up."
You knocked on my door.
Exactly.
So
Also,
yeah, but
if you're not home,
I think it's nice that if you work for a company, for example,
Hmm.
and an office space, and they actually make everyone go and take a nap or whatever, that's
Yeah.
kind of nice.
you could
But I
have
don't
like
think you can
sleeping berths, couldn't you?
Yeah, like
But so
I think
a
it would
lot
be
of
fun.
lawyers and legal professions used to do that, but unfortunately they had to take them out because there were other things that
They were
people could
used for
use
nefarious, but whenever you say there's a room you can rent by the hour, people immediately get all excited, don't they? You're going to go do
People are
something.
ridiculous.
They're filthy, yeah. So your final one then?
Final one: introduce a mandatory cycle
Now
license.
there's a lot of transport issues here. idea. This is
It
good.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's London.
Yeah.
You know, so this is.
But it's not just
significant.
London, because now when you go out into the countryside, you've got all these idiots on bikes in pelotons, a word that I'd never even heard of until the 2012 Olympics. And then suddenly you were on trains and you'd hear these guys going, yeah, we're going on a peloton this weekend. You go, what? So
They all wear the tight outfits.
they all wear the
And cause
lycra.
congestion.
I saw 4 guys one day down in Sussex driving, all wearing the same outfit.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, what's the matter with you?
Are you sure it wasn't Fathers for Justice?
No. Nobody's seen them for years.
Yeah, did
And
they
also,
get
they dress up
justice?
as Batman. They must have done. He's given up now.
That's gone.
Anyway, so these are all great. And there's a good mixture of things here. I definitely, again, the empty shots for homeless people is idiotic. I mean, that's just mad.
I'll tell you that.
Removing the congestion charge, yes. Mandatory voting, yes. Self-driving Uber cars, no. Cycle licenses, yes. Mandatory daily siesta, yes. So I think it's almost a tie. This maybe you could do. Could you both do the job? Could you be, if you were Prime Minister?
Yeah.
Would you appoint him as your deputy?
I would, yeah.
I think that's a bad judgment for.
Really?
I think you've got potential. No,
Yeah.
you've got some good insights too.
He could be like the John Prescott to your Tony Blair.
There we go.
I was thinking more Rod Hull and Emu, but that's quite nice.
Which one of you's Rod Hull? That's a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
But as long as
for the
I'm
first
made
time
Prime
ever, I'm
Minister,
going to award
that's
you
fine.
Prime Minister of the Week to both of you. Maybe you could split the week.
Progress. It's a hung parliament.
3.5 weeks, 3.5 days each.
Well, I'm definitely going to get Friday off because I like my siestas.
There you go.
So there you go.
So you can be Prime Minister on Friday. She does all the other days.
Great.
Or maybe you just do the weekend. Very good. Well, thank you, Dave Chawner.
Thank you.
Precious Muir, very kind. Very nice to see you. Another successful look through the issues of what we fight with every single day of the week. That was, of course, Prime Minister for a Week. Coming next, it's Biden's balls up. And it's not his dog commander who keeps biting everyone.
The president asked me to be in charge of managing that piece, then President Trump. Excuse me, Freudian slip. That was the last president. He caused, anyway, that was President Obama when I was vice president.
So that was the world according to Mike Graham for this week. And what a week it's been. We'll have more for you at the same time next week because this is, of course, an ongoing affair. Coming up next, though, is the angriest man on television. It's Kevin O'Sullivan.
How are you going to stop the votes?
This is an international problem.
How's that going for your party? I'm a millennial, you're a Victorian, I think.
This helps weather people. I'm going to help the Met Office.
3, 2, 1.
Go Browns. I'm Jeremy Kyle.
And I'm Nicola Thorpe. Welcome to Talk Today.
Big opinions,
You can't be concerned about these people coming because that makes you a nasty racist.
big guests, and the big issues of the day. Join me, Julia Hartley-Brewer, every day at 1 p.m. when I'll be tackling the stories that affect real people's lives. These people were effectively, tried and convicted by the court of public opinion. When did we stop the presumption of innocence? Talk TV. If you're thinking about it, we're talking about it.